The following podcast contains graphic discussion of true crimes laced with foul language and tipsy banter that may be offensive and disturbing to some audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
I don't know how to start. Hey everyone, welcome to Crimes Uncorked. I'm Saint Jennifer.
And I'm Saint Rebecca.
And you're probably wondering why we feel so holy today. Well, it's because we are going to be celebrating all things saint today in episode number 6. Which actually we could start with our wine of the day.
Oh, absolutely. Well, what we got here from our friends at St. Michelle Winery, they gave us from their new collection prayers of saints and prayers of sinners to try out during our podcast. So isn't this
cool.
awesome? So this is one of their recently launched Chardonnays. We're drinking the Prayers of Saints 2017 Chardonnay. And we want to give them a great big thanks.
Yes, thank you so much. This wine looks so good.
It looks amazing.
Yes. And it has a nice, easy screw cap because we're recording on Monday and it's quicker to get to the wine that way.
Yes, we like that.
With a screw cap,
so as soon as she cracked it open, I'm like, oh, and it's a screw cap. I like that.
Yes, I know. It's so cool. And these bottles, I have to say, are pretty amazing.
Oh, yeah.
The labels are so artistic and just so cool. And you know what? Like, there's something really special about them. They actually glow in the dark. So
what they actually say here, whether you're a sinner or a saint, we're all the same at the core. The truth will be revealed in the dark.
I love it. I love it. That is so cool.
Yeah, we're really getting some of these things that have these really cool little...
Yes.
It's not just the wine. It's awesome.
It's like the whole wine experience. So, Prayers of Saints.
Thank you.
This is so cool.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. Very delicious. It's very
nice
refreshing.
Chardonnay. Especially since we're having one of the nicest days yet of the year.
I know. I have to say, this sun, it was only 40 degrees today, but the sun just made it seem like spring was eventually coming.
It is coming. It's soon to be here. And the snow is melting. Yay.
Yeah, mud.
So with our inspiration here, our prayers of saints, we each decided we were going to do something saint related to talk about for our crime of the day. And so what I did was I actually looked up a bunch of saints and kind of like wanted to figure out what would be like some of the most horrific saints and what they did. And, because there's always like these dark backgrounds when it comes to saints. So I did some research and I went and read some of them, and I found that Saint Margaret Clitherow was one of the most intriguing to me because she was a woman. Most of the saints are men. And for me, I was like, oh, how bad, what could a woman have done back then that was so bad that would warrant death?
Never underestimate a woman, no matter how far you have to go back.
That's right.
We can be evil if we need to be.
That's right.
Just kidding. Well, we can.
We can, absolutely. So Saint Margaret Clitherow was born in Middletown, England in 1555. This is the other thing that's so intriguing because it's so old.
Gothic.
I love it. Gothic period of time. All I've been picturing are like these stone mansions and dark and heavy velvet curtains that hang, and it's all smoky and dark inside these houses.
Yes.
So I was really looking into this one, and she was born of Protestant parents, and she posed good looks, and she was full of wit, and she was charming. And in 1571, she married John Clitherow, a well-to-do grazier and butcher, whom she bore 2 children. And a few years later, she entered into the Catholic Church. Her zeal led her to harbor persecuted Catholics that were leaving the Anglo Church and trying to come back or to start the Catholic, which was a huge no back then, and people were killed for it. So she refused to go to their church, which is ultimately what ended up making her set to death for not attending church, which is just crazy.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, could you imagine?
There wouldn't be a lot of people around today, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, no, definitely not. So she was accused in 1576, and she was found guilty of not attending church and sentenced, which you're going to love this, sentenced to being crushed to death.
She was sentenced to being crushed.
Crushed, yes. And she was pregnant. So they waited for her to deliver the baby, to have the baby.
Thank God. I thought you were going to tell me that there was like a double crush here.
Nope, thank God. She basically was hiding these priests in her house. And that actually never came about. They suspected her of it, but she was not actually tried for that. Huh. She was tried for the not going to church. So they got her on one, knowing that she was doing all these other things behind their back by housing the churches and allowing the priests of the Catholic Church to come in and provide them with services on a nightly basis by candlelight. So she was having these little ceremonies nightly, and they knew about it, and the way to get to her, well, you're not attending our church, so we're going to fine you for that, and that's punishable by death.
Imagine?
No. So what they did, it gets a little gruesome here, but it's like without illustrating how bad it was, I almost have to say it.
Put your spaghetti and meatballs down for a couple of seconds.
Yeah, no eating.
Plug your ears.
They took the sharpest rock they could find out in the field, and they put that underneath her. They stretched her.
Before you continue, look, I have to be honest here, and I'm going to tell you that I actually fainted at the end of Braveheart. I did. I didn't see anything, as you know.
Yep.
However, the whole knowing what was happening got to me enough where I started seeing flashing lights, and next thing I knew, I was on the floor.
Stars were flying.
Right. I saw some stars, for sure.
Oh, jeez.
But anyway... Okay, this was...
Okay, so I'll try to clean it up a bit.
No, don't clean it up. I just wanted to warn you in case I fall on the floor. You'll know why.
So they find the sharpest rock they can find. So I'm picturing, like the 6x6 sharp rock. They put that down on the ground, then they stretched her from limb to limb, placed her on top of it so that this sharp rock was under her back. And then they took her front door off her home and brought it to the square, put this heavy door, because back then they made everything. It was a wooden great big door, probably a 200-300 pound door,
which is now laying on top of her with like her face, her against her face,
and
her
face,
the front of her body.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And then they proceeded to put 800 pounds of weight on top of it. Like
at once? Or?
Oh, no, individually. Like they picked him
like,
up.
Like, let's torture her.
Yeah, I'll show you some pictures.
No, that's okay.
But
that's okay. That's quite all right. I totally believe you.
All right, so she was pressed to death on, get this, Good Friday, March 25th, 1586 in York, England. So, unbelievable. That was what she did. And actually, though, her 2 sons that were alive They actually became priests, and her daughter, who she was pregnant with, who she gave birth to and then was killed, her daughter became a nun in the Catholic Church. So they all stayed with it. And she became a martyr on December 8th, 1929 by Pope John Paul II.
Interesting.
It was a really interesting. And her feast day is March 26th.
Oh.
So it's right around the corner.
Yes. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? Actually, I have to talk about this now.
Okay.
Because your story made me think about this. I went to Catholic school.
Okay. So did I, for only the kindergarten, because they had full day kindergarten versus the public school that had half day kindergarten.
Okay.
So that's what kind of Catholics I was. That's right. But I did go to CCD my whole life, so I can relate.
Okay.
Bring it on.
Okay. Well, I attended Catholic school for 8 years consecutively. And I'm just thinking about the fact of not going to church and having this happen to you is totally insane. Like,
I know.
I can't even imagine that today.
I know.
But one of the things, I'll tell you a funny story about my time in Catholic school. This is just one quick little thing I'll never forget. Because it's like, you think about sins, they teach you not to sin, there's all these sins, right?
Right.
But they get you on every little thing. That's what I'm going to talk to you about today. The things I think that our sins might not be so sinful. So here's an example of that. So when I was in school, if we got caught chewing gum, we would literally have to pay $5 quote unquote to the missions, whatever that meant.
Okay.
Mission. We never knew who were in these missions. We never knew what the missions were. We never knew where the missions were going. All I want to know is, look, if I am going to get busted with gum and I am forking over a $5, at least let me know where it's going.
Right.
How do I know you're not pocketing that? How come, what if how do I know that's not being slipped into a draw? You get a couple of kids
at the end of the year when you graduate, like after 12 years, if you went through, I know you only went 8, but do you get a receipt at the end? This is how much you donated to the mission.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. You think our parents got?
No.
Because it's like our parents' money. You go home, you have to tell mom and dad, I got caught chewing gum. I have to pay $5 tomorrow.
Right.
And they're like, and at the time, you get in trouble. Okay, I won't chew gum anymore.
And now your parents have to pay for it.
Right. But how come nobody's questioning, $5 to the mission? Are they crazy? Right? I don't recall a parent ever maybe calling, mine included, ever calling and just saying, you know what, that might be a little steep. I'm sorry my kid was chewing gum, but, times are kind of hard. $5? Really? And nobody was clear because everyone I talked to at the time, because come on, let's face it, we all got busted chewing gum. The older we got, it was gum. I mean, sorry.
Did they actually hold you to it? You had to bring, what would happen if you didn't bring in the $5?
I don't know. I always did it because I feared my principal. She was one of those nuns,
Uh-huh.
Nice lady, but you just did not want to cross her. So, anyway.
I love it.
Yeah, so that was one of my punishments for sinning in the Catholic Church.
Gum. That's just chewing gum.
Right.
Being a kid.
Right.
That seems a little steep.
So, but...
Maybe you paid it forward, though. But anything you do cancels out in the future.
But when you think about it, maybe for this time, that's what it was like back then. Because she's clearly getting crushed for not going to church, which is steep, and here I am getting busted for chewing gum and having to pay $5.
Right.
It's progression, but still, there needs to be some changes.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
All right. Saint Margaret.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Good for her. Sorry she had to get crushed.
But now she'll go down in history as...
Okay, well, we appreciate that. Thank you very much, Saint Margaret. Yeah, so... Anyway, this wine is delicious.
Oh, it is.
I'm really enjoying it, and it's
like
nice
it
to have a white because
we've done so many reds. But that's why I said it tied in with the weather change, because we're having this beautiful day here with the sun shining, and it's really making me feel like spring is coming.
I know, it's like
it's coming. It's really close.
a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes, it's been a hard winter.
It has so far. Here, would you like a little more?
Yes, please.
Because I'm just filling up my glass. My tale today is quite disturbing as well. Yeah, we have our prayers of saints to help us get through it, and we shall proceed. Okay, so what I decided to do was talk about a type of case that really pulls at my heartstrings. I've researched cases like this bunches of times. But one of the things that always gets me, John Doe and Jane Doe cases, because they just are unidentified, and it's so sad because they're people too. So today I'm going to be talking about one of those cases, and this is the Jane Doe from St. Louis, which actually is a pretty famous case. I have heard about this before. It was gruesome, and it was opened and spoken about over many years, and it still is a cold case, and it's it would be really nice for there to be some closure to this. So on a brisk Monday afternoon on February 28th, 1983 in St. Louis, Missouri, two rummagers went looking for scrap metal for their car in the basement of an abandoned apartment building, which has long since been bulldozed, but it was located at 5635 Clemens Avenue. One of the individuals pulled out his lighter to light a cigarette, and when he did, the light came on, and he found something a lot worse. There was an African American girl estimated to be between the ages of 8 to 11 and approximately 4'10" to 5'6" in height. She was wearing a yellow blood-stained V-neck sweater with no tags, and she was positioned face down with her pants and underwear removed. Her head had been decapitated. And there were 2 coats of red nail polish on her fingers, and her hands were bound by the wrists with red and white nylon rope.
Oh, God.
So there you are thinking that you're going to go out on a mission to go find some scrap metal, and you just want to stop and have a cigarette, and all of a sudden you light your lighter and you find this
body, because it's like got no head, and
the shock and horror on the faces of those guys must have been incredible. I mean,
it's got to be devastating. It's got to be like beyond like horrific,
right?
Yeah.
I never want to see that ever.
No. Well, let's hope it doesn't ever happen to us.
I know. Either way.
Saints and sinners, take care of us.
Yes. Yes. Say your prayer to your saint tonight.
Yes.
When detectives Joe Bergen and Herb Riley arrived at the crime scene, they initially thought she could have been a prostitute until they examined her body and realized that she hadn't gone through puberty yet. They determined she was beheaded elsewhere, possibly by a large carving knife, because of how cleanly her head was removed due to the lack of blood, and was subsequently discarded at a later time. They did find some traces of blood on the side of the walls leading to the basement that indicated she had been carried, and her body brushed against it during the process. An autopsy conducted by Mary case from St. Louis's medical examiner's office showed she had been raped, and her cause of death was by strangulation 3 or 5 days prior to being found. So she was strangled, killed, and then decapitated. As for the child's head, it was never recovered despite an extensive search. This hindered the investigation because dental exams couldn't be provided, nor a facial reconstruction through forensic technology programming. So the investigators scoured all the kids in their surrounding schools to find out, like, was somebody missing? Let's start there.
Yeah.
But every kid was accounted for.
Oh, wow.
So they proceeded to look through the database of missing children, yet there had been no reports of young children matching her description being missing. She was ruled out as being 5 possible victims ranging from several states, including other Jane Does. Jane Doe's case quickly turned cold, and after 10 months of exhausting all possible leads and nobody coming forward to claim her body, she was buried in December of 1983 at Washington Park Cemetery in Berkeley, Missouri. Okay, now listen to this.
Okay.
10 years later, in 1993, investigators mailed her blood-stained sweater and nylon rope that bound her hands to a psychic residing in Florida for further analysis. But it didn't work because the evidence was lost in the mail.
Oh my God.
So it never made it to the psychic. I just hope that they weren't mailing it to that Sylvia Brown. Do you know Sylvia Brown? Do you know who? You don't know who Sylvia Brown is?
No.
Okay. Let me tell you something about Sylvia Brown. She was this psychic that, like, told,
She did the talk show circuit.
She did this talk show circuit. She was really good friends with Montel Williams. She was on his show all the time.
I'm sure I probably saw an episode with her then, because I saw all those things back then.
She would, she sat there in her chair. She had this really thick kind of voice. And, she would, people in the audience would ask her, my daughter went missing 7 years ago, and I just, I'm sorry, my bad.
Good, I'm not the only one.
No. It happens, folks. It happens. All right, let me just, okay, we're good. So you would have the grieving mom in the audience who, had lost her child years ago and is still holding out hope. And she wants to know. So her last stitch effort is to come on Montel Williams. Sylvia Brown's going to be there. And, she just really is
hopeful for
information.
Yeah.
So they bring, the woman in the audience up, and she says, my daughter's been missing for like 7 years, and I really, I'm holding out hope. And then you have Sylvia Brown sitting there on the stage looking at this poor woman saying, oh no, honey, she's in the ditch somewhere. Oh. Give up hope. Nah, sorry, she's dead. And you just want to be like, are you serious right now?
That's terrible.
So anyway, this woman, she was terrible. She was terrible. She's no longer here, but the things that she used to tell people, there have been people that have been found, who have, and I'm not going to get into this now. I will get into this in another episode, but there was a case that she was involved in that really nailed it for me. That made me realize, oh no, this woman's pure evil. So I'm gonna talk about that. That's for another episode.
Okay.
Anyway. Okay. So the bloody sweater and rope were lost in the mail. The original homicide detective passed away, and Jane Doe's case was one of 2 cases he never solved during his tenure. 20 years passed by, and in June of 2013, so, even as recent as 2013, investigators were able to exhume the child's remains with the hopes of gathering new forensic evidence by modern advancements in science and technology.
Right, like a DNA test,
yes.
touch test, and...
Yeah. Yes.
That would be great.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it took them a while to do this because she had been buried in an area of the cemetery that was unkept and kind of been long forgotten. Her grave was unmarked, and many people were displaced because there wasn't enough care for the burial records.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so, but with the help of willful volunteers and other various resources, her remains were unearthed and transported to St. Louis Medical Examiner's Office, where researchers from the Smithsonian Institute and the University of North Texas recalibrated bone sampling and minerals to attempt to narrow down her native origins based on the water she had drank. Can you believe this? It's so interesting.
Yeah.
It's so interesting what they can do and what they can find.
That's amazing.
I know. I love this stuff. Well, testing revealed that she spent most of her life in one of the numerous southeastern states, including Georgia, Mississippi, Arkansas, Texas, Tennessee, Florida, Louisiana, and North or South Carolina. And I went through all of them because it still remains unsolved today. So it's always good to get all that information out there.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody has any information, who can they contact?
Oh, their local FBI agency.
Yeah, perfect.
Testing provided a glimmer of hope to the case. The police say it was rather unlikely she'll properly be identified because someone needs to come forward with vital information. Yeah. So if any light can be shed on this devastating tragedy, it would be the nickname she was given, Hope.
No.
Her reburial in Calvary Cemetery in St. Louis, Missouri, was funded by the nonprofit organization Garden of Innocence, where the plot of land is regularly maintained. So that's nice.
Oh,
you know,
God.
I mean, come on, these are people too.
Yeah, and that sounds nice.
Yeah. Overall, the list of suspects were unfortunately very short. With lack of evidence from her murder, finding a person of interest was difficult. The authorities suspected a family member may be involved because nobody came forward, and nobody reported a child missing. You know, so considering they were unable to determine where she was from, the theory was hard to substantiate. Yeah. There was one suspect that caught the eye of the investigators, but that didn't work out in the end. So, yeah. To this day, Jane Doe's case has never been solved and is one that haunts the original and current investigators. But as long as her case stays in the light, as her nickname given by the police suggests, there will always be hope. Isn't that well written?
Yes.
I love the way that was written at the end, because yes, you can never give up hope. And you know what?
Yep.
They're bringing out, they're finding evidence for cases going back years and years now, and they're pulling in these people that they're found guilty, and so you can never give up hope. That was really well written by our friends at True Crime Articles blog. They helped me with my research and also Wikipedia.
Nice.
So we covered two pretty interesting stories, both very tragic.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The wine is delicious.
Yes, I love it.
So what we're going to do is we're going to post a photo of our wine of the day on our Instagram account and on our website. Please visit. It's www.crimesuncorked.com, and I'm going to try to capture what happens to this awesome wine bottle later on when it gets dark in here. So you can look for that on our Instagram as well. This bottle is so good, and the wine is fantastic.
It's delicious.
It really is. So thank you again to our friends at St. Michelle. And now I guess we'll sign off because it's Monday today.
Yes,
and
today's Monday.
freaking exhausted.
And that time change did not help.
Oh, we sprung ahead. And we both came off busy weekends. And so we're kind of like a little... well, we're hanging in there. Let's put it that way. But we were excited to get together today.
Absolutely.
Even for Monday. It's one of the best Mondays I think I've had in a
me
while,
too.
right?
Me too.
So
Absolutely.
we've got that. All right. So we'll leave you with that. And thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to check out our website and our Instagram. We really appreciate all of our followers. And we always welcome feedback. So definitely reach out to us if you want to leave some comments. So thanks for tuning in with us again, Weirdo Winos. And remember, as long as there's crime, there's gotta be wine. Bye!